Imagine waking up on an ordinary day, expecting sunlight to break through your window. But instead, the sky remains dark. No rays pierce the clouds. No warmth touches your skin. And the most unsettling part is that no one seems to know what happened. It sounds like the beginning of a post-apocalyptic movie, but what if this scenario were far more real than we think? We've grown so used to the sun, to photosynthesis quietly producing the oxygen we breathe, to the presence of liquid water, to the regular cycle of days that shapes our lives, that we forget how deeply everything depends on it. But what if, in just 8 minutes, all of that turned into nothing more than a distant memory? What would happen to Earth, to life as we know it? In this video, you're about to find out what would truly begin the exact moment the sun disappears. And I guarantee, it's not just like turning off a light. The consequences are far more terrifying, unexpected, and scientifically fascinating than most people could ever imagine. So, are you ready to face this extreme hypothesis? There's something we rarely think about, something that holds our world together, silently and steadily. That something is the sun. It's not just there to brighten the day or give you a tan. It orchestrates life itself. Every green leaf you see exists because the sun drives photosynthesis, and it's through this invisible process that oxygen is released. The same oxygen you're breathing right now as you listen. But it doesn't stop there. The sun is our planet's natural heater. It's what keeps the oceans liquid, moves the water cycle, forms clouds, and makes rainfall possible in the right places. Without it, Earth would become nothing more than a frozen rock drifting endlessly through space. And here's the thing. Even your body feels its absence. Your sleep, your mood, your energy levels, all of it begins to fall apart if the sun vanishes for long. Now take a breath and picture this. What if the sun were to vanish in an instant? No warning, no explosion, no time to prepare. Just a sudden, silent disappearance. Sounds absurd? Well, in the next few minutes, you'll understand how this scenario, however unlikely, would unleash a domino effect so devastating that even science struggles to predict the full scale of its consequences. Most people assume we'd notice immediately if the sun disappeared. But the truth is, we wouldn't. For roughly 8 minutes, Earth would continue spinning as if nothing had happened. That's because both sunlight and the sun's gravitational influence take about 8 minutes to reach us. So when the star vanishes, we experience a brief illusion. A moment when everything still feels intact. And then, reality crashes in. Darkness falls. But not the kind of night we know. This is a heavy, complete darkness. No moonlight, no visible stars. Earth would be plunged into a kind of luminous silence. For a short time, we might still see planets like Jupiter glowing faintly in the sky, reflecting sunlight they had received moments earlier. It would be a strange, almost poetic spectacle, marking the beginning of the end. Meanwhile, something both beautiful and terrifying would occur. Auroras, normally limited to polar skies, would start appearing across the planet, a final dance of light in the darkness, just before the collapse. Because from here on, time begins to flow in a different rhythm, the rhythm of breakdown. And the next impact strikes something essential, the air we breathe. With no sun, photosynthesis halts. And when photosynthesis stops, so does the production of oxygen. It might sound abstract, even distant, but within 24 hours, we'd start to feel the consequences. Plants, deprived of sunlight, would begin to collapse. Without them, the air we breathe would no longer be refreshed. The oxygen we still have would last a while, but its quality would decline fast. Heavy breathing, dizziness, headaches. Symptoms we associate with high altitudes would begin to appear at sea level. Now, imagine the chain reaction. Animals start to die. The ones that consume the most oxygen would be the first to fall. Great forests, once considered the lungs of the planet, would turn into silent shadows, no longer capable of supporting life. Without photosynthesis, there's no gas exchange. What was once a perfect cycle between plants, animals, and humans becomes an invisible countdown. Some scientists suggest that, in closed environments with oxygen tanks and highly controlled infrastructure, a few people might survive for a bit longer. But the level of preparation required would be so extreme that it would be almost impossible for 8 billion people. Earth, once vibrant with life, would begin to resemble a powerless hospital. Silent, critical, with no sign of rescue. And the next blow would hit hard. Temperature. And it wouldn't drop slowly. The absence of the sun doesn't just darken the world, it freezes it. Literally. Without solar radiation, Earth's temperature would begin to fall at a terrifying rate. In just a few days, the planet would plunge below zero. And we're not talking about winter cold. We're talking lethal cold, the kind that freezes lakes, stops engines, and kills in minutes. That water you drink, solid ice in no time, and there's no coming back from it. Some regions might resist a little longer. Places with intense geothermal activity like Iceland, parts of Chile, or areas near volcanoes. These spots could become tiny islands of warmth in a freezing world. But even there, survival would depend on underground shelters, power reserves, and intense preparation. A luxury for very few. For the rest of humanity, extinction would come gradually. Not from lack of food, but from the inability to survive the cold. Inside homes, the scene wouldn't be any better. With no solar energy to power panels, no plants operating, and no fuel being delivered, everything would shut down. Stoves, heaters, power grids, all useless. Blankets wouldn't help. Fires wouldn't be enough. Earth would become a frozen ball in space, where every breath of warm air becomes a fading memory. And as if that weren't enough, the cold would come with something worse. Eternal darkness. And its effects would go far beyond the body. They'd strike the mind, our health, and even the planet's balance. No light, no heat, no oxygen. What's left? A slow but certain collapse. The food chain would break down within days. Plants, the first to go, would drag herbivores with them. And without herbivores, carnivores wouldn't stand a chance. Even organic waste, once broken down by fungi and microbes, would freeze before it could decay. The life that once bloomed across the earth would begin to vanish, leaving no trace. But it's not just hunger or cold that would take over. The lack of sunlight would completely disrupt the biological clocks of all living creatures. Hormones, sleep cycles, metabolism, all thrown into chaos. The absence of vitamin D would weaken our immune systems. Cases of deep depression would surge. The body would get sick, but the mind would collapse first. Constant darkness would drain our sanity, triggering breakdowns, emotional crises, and even social collapse among those still alive. In such a darkened world, diseases once under control would return with force. Without power, hospitals would shut down. Without transportation, medicine wouldn't reach where it's needed. Without leadership, no one would coordinate help. Society would crumble like a house of cards in a hurricane, and all of it triggered by the disappearance of a single star. But could it get worse? Yes. And here's how. By removing the only force still holding Earth in orbit, the sun's gravity. Most people think of the sun as a source of heat and light, but it's more than that. It's the gravitational anchor of the entire solar system. It keeps the planets moving in orderly paths, like dancers following the rhythm of a cosmic song. When the sun disappears, that music stops. And what happens then? Each planet, including Earth, flies off in a straight line through space, like a stone released from a sling. No direction, no control, no turning back. At first, Earth would continue traveling at the same speed, roughly 107,000 kilometers h. But now, without the soft curve of orbit, it becomes a runaway ship drifting into deep space. Over time, this journey could cross paths with other celestial bodies, increasing the risk of collisions. Worse still, even the moon's orbit could destabilize, possibly leading to catastrophic impacts. And it doesn't end there. Asteroids that once orbited safely around the sun would now become wandering missiles. Entire belts of rocks, comets, and debris could suddenly enter Earth's path. It's chaos, cosmic disorder, a violent, unpredictable, and deadly universe. The stability the sun once gave us would be gone, and space would no longer be just dark. It would be dangerous. Yet even in the face of this apocalypse, there are those who believe that some form of life might endure. With the surface frozen, oceans sealed under kilometers of ice, and the atmosphere collapsing, Earth would seem like a dead planet. But does that mean all life would vanish? The answer may surprise you. In areas with geothermal activity, like deep-sea hydrothermal vents, there are microorganisms that don't rely on sunlight at all. They survive thanks to the heat coming from within Earth itself, in ecosystems that are completely isolated and almost alien. These extremophiles are likely the only forms of life that could survive. They're bacteria, archaea, and other tiny organisms that already thrive without light and in extreme conditions. In deep ocean environments or underground pockets, there might still be enough energy to sustain small colonies. It wouldn't be a civilization, not a plan B for humanity, but it would be a sign that life can persist, even in the harshest corners of the universe. Now, if Earth were to continue drifting through space, there's a remote, almost utopian chance that it could be caught by the gravity of another star. Perhaps one day we might cross paths with Alpha Centauri, our closest stellar neighbor. But that would take over 40,000 years, and even then the odds of falling into a habitable zone are practically zero. Still, the question lingers. Could the universe give us a second chance? As incredible as this all sounds, the end of the sun isn't just a wild hypothesis. It's a scientific certainty. The star that gives us life is changing. Right now, it's stable, but in time, it will grow old. It will expand massively until it engulfs Mercury, then Venus, and yes, quite possibly Earth. The sun will become a red giant, enormous, unstable, and unrecognizable. This won't happen overnight. It will take millions of years, marked by catastrophic shifts. Temperatures on Earth will rise, oceans will evaporate, the atmosphere will break apart, and the planet will be reduced to a dry, scorched rock. Not even the hardiest microorganisms would survive. Photosynthesis would cease long before that. The poles would melt, and Earth, the cradle of life, would become a carbonized remnant floating in space. And after destruction, silence. When the sun runs out of fuel, it won't explode. It will collapse in on itself, becoming a white dwarf. Small, dense, and cold. No supernova, no dramatic finale. Just a glowing fragment, suspended in the dark. The star that once gave life would mark its end. Now that you know what would happen if the sun disappeared, tell me, did you ever imagine just how much, and in how many ways, we depend on this single star? Life on Earth isn't just a coincidence. It's a fragile equilibrium, held together by forces we rarely notice. The sun, distant as it may seem, is our anchor. And when that anchor is lost, everything changes. So let me ask, if something essential could vanish in an instant, are you prepared, not just externally, but inside? Do you know where you'd turn for hope, purpose, direction, in the middle of chaos? There are no easy answers, but that's exactly why these questions matter. Because it's the search for understanding that moves us forward. If this content made you reflect, if it challenged you or sparked something inside, then it's already done its job. Because here, we don't hand you ready-made answers. We plant questions. Questions that echo long after the video ends. And if even one thought changed the way you see the world, then you've already started a new path. Because knowledge is just the beginning.